This is going to be a really cool episode. I'm bringing on Adrian Moreno as a guest, and he is a behavioral change specialist. In the episode, we're going to learn about neuro remapping, how to change your thought patterns, and how to use hypnosis to change your life. Make sure you stay till the end because we have something special for you from Adrian. Introducing the business hypnotist, Adrian Moreno. Welcome to the VJ Kyla Show, everyone. On today's episode, I'm very excited to have Adrian Moreno join us. Adrian, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on, man? Thanks a lot for having me.
Hey, I'm super excited for this conversation because, first of all, you're an entrepreneur, which I love talking with, and You're also a business hypnotist. And
Yes.
I would love to learn more about the psychology side of it and how you even got into this field. I think it's really cool.
Yeah. So really interesting story. I'm going to give you the shorter version of it, but enough context so you really understand. So in 2014, I experienced what we call a heartbreak, right? I'm not going to go year by year now, but this heartbreak was not it was the high school heartbreak. So it was the kind of heartbreak where you feel like your entire world comes crumbling down. Well, at least I thought that my world was crumbling down. And because I thought that, I felt like it was, and I started acting like it. And what I mean by started acting like it was I went on and my grades absolutely plummeted. Like I just stopped caring. Grades plummeted. I was deep inside of this discovery program for becoming a firefighter. For when I graduated, I was like really obsessed with becoming a firefighter. Dropped out of that. I was like, I don't care. And then I went from being this really happy kid to being really angry. And then to make it even worse, I gained 100 pounds in 4 years. So I stacked on a whole bunch of weight. And this was just the feelings I was feeling expressed outwardly, and I don't care. And it looking like that, right? And so here I was basically I lost my job too. So I was unemployed. The only way I made money, very frankly, was selling weed. And so I'd just sell marijuana, and that's how I'd make my money at the time. And one day, everything changed when my friend Gilbert decided to come over to, again, very frankly, just smoke weed with me. He decided to come over. We were just going to do what we always did and sit there and smoke. And when he came over, something happened. When he came over, my doorbell rang. And when my doorbell rang, I'm laying on the couch. Picture me laying on the couch, watching The Office, no shirt. Now, I'm not saying I didn't have a shirt to sound sexy. I'm saying it because it's an important part of the story. I'm sitting here with no shirt, and the doorbell rings, so I get up. And as I'm walking to the door, I got to pass by my kitchen table to the right. So as I pass by my kitchen table, the T-shirt that I was wearing was hanging on the chair, right? Because I had a shirt on earlier, but I took it off. So it was hanging on the chair. And so I stopped and I said, should I put on this T-shirt? No, it's just Gilbert outside. It's not like there's a beautiful woman out there. Like, it's just Gilbert. I'm just like, it doesn't matter. He can see me like this. I don't care. And so I decided to thankfully not wear that shirt, not put it on, because that decision changed my life. When I walked up to the door, I opened up the door, and my friend Gilbert looked at me up and down real quick. Remember, I'm shirtless. So he looks at me up and down real quick, and he goes, damn, Adrian, you got fat, straight to my face. And I just get, like, I feel this stinging in my gut. I'm like, like that hurt. Like my feelings got hurt. I'm not going to lie. And it, all of a sudden it hit me, because 4 years prior, I had a six pack. I was in shape. I was this guy who was trying to be a firefighter. I was going somewhere. Then here I was, unemployed, 100 pounds overweight, sitting here, eating up the house, smoking weed, watching Netflix all day long with nothing going for me. And I just get angry, not at Gilbert, but at myself, because I was like, Adrian, how did this happen? And I get so angry to the point where I end up telling my friend that day. I looked at him and I locked eyes and I said, look, I'm about to lose all of this weight. Just watch. And the way that he looked at me was like, oh, yeah, whatever, Adrian. Here, hit this blunt, right? And to me, I wouldn't have believed me either if you knew me back then. But we would come to find how serious I was, because the moment he left, I went inside, opened up my laptop, and I YouTubed workouts. And then I also remember, and so a part of the story I didn't share was in high school, I was into bodybuilding. So I had like still the muscular physique, just a lot of fat on top of it. And I still had the knowledge of a bodybuilder though. And so I started drawing up my own workout plans along with some new new workouts I was learning on YouTube. And then I just thought back to my old diet, and I just wrote that old diet out. And I was like, all right, let me go get the groceries for this. And thankfully, I already had a gym in my garage, because at the time when I lived with my mom, I had a gym there. That's where I worked out in high school. And so I just was able to walk into the gym, and then I never stopped. Within 9 months, I lost 91 pounds.
Wow.
And so I just like, it happened really fast. But not only so, after I lost 91 pounds, I realized I could help people do the same. Right. And that story is funny, really short. I was helping all of my friends work out. It was like, I used to, so imagine, so I had the house in the neighborhood where all the friends would come and hang out. Like I was a hangout. I had the hangout house. Right. And so all my friends, with me starting to change my life and get in shape, they had no choice but to do the same thing. I was like, look, if you're going to be hanging out with me, you're going to be working out with me. Like there's no choice. And so all of them were working out with me, and I turned into this coach without knowing it. I had this big whiteboard, and I was drawing all these workouts of the day, WODs. And I was like, okay, you're going to be at this station. The bell's going to ring. You're going to go here. And then I'm going to go here. So we're not going to be in each other's way. Then you're going to go do this for that much reps, for that much time. And before I knew it, one of my friends looked at me and said, Adrian, why don't you get paid for this? And I stopped and I said, hold on. People pay people to do this, right? He was like, yes. I was like, holy shit. I found it. Like, I think I can do this thing. And so I start a business, helping people with personal training. But as I'm doing that, I wasn't making any money out of the garage. I was just broke. I was making like $1,100 a month, but I was happier because I was useful. I felt worthy. I felt like I was helping people. So I just had a better mindset. And losing 91 pounds will change your mindset too. And then whenever I started this, whenever I realized I was struggling, I decided to click on one of these ads that was saying, hey, if you're a personal trainer and you're struggling and you want to grow your business online, click this ad, like book a call with us. I saw the ad like 30 times. I was like, screw it, booked the call. And I got on there, $2,000 to my name, $10,000 price tag to join the mastermind to learn how to do this stuff. I said, screw it. I want what's on the other side of that, yes, rather than this $2,000 in my pocket. Like this thing can make me more than this $2,000 in my pocket. Screw it. I'll go into debt. And so I didn't really go into debt. I just asked a bunch of friends and family if they can help me pay for this thing, and I'd pay them back. So I ended up coming up with the extra $8,000 in 17 days just by calling people and asking them. And I got into this mastermind. Within that mastermind, within the first 18 months, I made $250,000. Within the first 2 years, I made almost $500,000. And while I made all this money, I was in my fitness business, but I was depressed. I felt like crap. And all of a sudden, I just started burning a lot of cash. A lot of clients started leaving me. A lot of everything just started crashing. And while everything was crashing, I was also getting really, really curious as to why people did what they did. And the reason why I was curious about this was because I had clients who wouldn't do what I asked them to do, even though they paid me $5,000. And so they wouldn't do it. And I'm like, okay, what the heck? So instead of getting angry, I get curious. And I'm like, why do people do what they do? And why do they feel what they feel? And then all of a sudden, I'm going through this depressed, this state of waking up with anxiety because I'm losing a bunch of money. I'm scared. I'm like, I don't know what's going on anymore. And I feel like I'm about to just lose everything. That curiosity of why did I do this thing? Why did I make these mistakes? Why did I lose this money? Why did that happen? If I can understand that, then maybe, just maybe, I can manipulate my brain so I can be who I want to be, do what I want to do, and have the things that I want to have and make the impact I came here to make. And that is what started the long rabbit hole of YouTubing neuroscience. And then that's literally the one word I YouTube. And then I heard of this guy, Dr. Joe Dispenza. And then he talked about neural pathways in the brain and how if you want to be different, you have to just rewire the pathway. And so my whole obsession became how do you rewire a neural pathway? And that's what got me into this interesting space that I found myself in. But that is the super long answer to your very short question. But I wanted to make sure you had enough context behind this.
I think that is probably one of the best stories I've ever heard, just from not doing much with your life from, societal standpoints, and now, making $500,000 and then realizing, hey, there's another potential problem that we could solve outside of just the fitness side. And I think that's, it just blows my mind, right? We're talking about psychology, and that's a mind blower right there.
Yeah, at the end of the day, man, it's like why lose the weight when you can lose the person who gained the weight? And that's what happened with me, because in my journey, I never had the urges of like, I didn't have to go through the mental battle of, I don't want to do this workout, or I don't want to eat like this, because I was so interested in being in shape to the point where I saw myself as a fit person. Yeah, I gained all this weight, but that bodybuilder identity, the way of seeing myself as somebody who knows how to train and eat properly, that didn't completely go. So the moment that I made that decision, and decision comes from, I forgot what word it comes from, but the word it comes from means to cut off all other options. And so when I made that decision to lose weight that day, little did I know I turned on that old identity system. And then all of a sudden, it was like I never stopped. And I knew that that was a key to helping people get what they wanted, was changing that internal what's called their internal representation system. How do you see yourself? You know, and it all started from being called fat. And it's interesting how things play out.
So tell me a little bit more about this light bulb switch of changing your identity. Is it really that simple as making a decision, or is there a lot more?
It's simple, easy is a different story. Simple, yes. But I also don't want to give your audience the idea that it's hard, because the brain releases cortisol when it looks at hard things, but the brain releases dopamine when it looks at challenging things. Just turning something hard into something challenging makes it more fun, right? And think about it, you're like, oh, I'm up for a challenge. Oh, that's hard. It just changes things. So this is simple, it's challenging, but it's possible. All right. So yes, it absolutely is. Now, what I mean by this is, let's look at why we do what we do. All right. So if you look at let's look at why we get the results we get. So if you're not happy with the results you want, let's look at what's creating them. All right. I'm a business guy. I love reverse engineering stuff. So let's figure out what's creating this result. Reverse engineer, and you find out, oh, it's what you're doing. Like if you're gaining a bunch of weight, you're probably being sedentary and eating a bunch of food, or eating the wrong things. Simple, right? Okay, now you got your actions. So now we know actions are doing it. Okay, now what is driving those behaviors? What is driving those actions? If you get behind an action, what you see is that there is a feeling that influences one to act. You never act without feelings. The reality, life is feeling. Like, you don't think your way through life. Even when people say, I feel numb, that is a feeling. So no matter what, you're always feeling something. So behind every action, a feeling is there. If you feel anxious, you act in anxious ways, right? If you feel anxious, that's why you can walk in a room and ask your wife, your brother, your friend, hey, how are you feeling? And they're like, I'm doing good, but they're feeling anxious. Their body language is showing it. They're acting anxious. And you're like, are you sure? Right? So you can pick those things up. Now, what is behind every single one of those feelings? So if we get behind the feelings, you see that there is a thought behind the feeling. A feeling is like a juicy part of a thought. Now, what people get mistaken is they kind of like stay there. And now they're like, okay, if I change my thoughts, I can start feeling different and I can like be different. But now you got to figure out what is causing those thoughts, because the reality is you think 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. All right. And you're only aware of about 1,100 to 1,600 thoughts a day. So a bunch of those thoughts are happening under your conscious awareness. So they're just constantly going. And if we look at the house I'm in a 2-story house, right? So we look at this house. The only reason it can stand this high is because there's a foundation to this house. And if I walk downtown and saw the skyscraper, a really tall building, there's an even deeper foundation to that building. So if you have a thought process that has been the same for decades, that gets more intense, there has to be a foundation supporting that thought process, like a building is being supported by a foundation, right? And the stronger it is, the deeper that foundation is. Now, what is the foundation? That's the key. Because if we can figure out the foundation, then we can manipulate it, which is, let's just get this clear, by the way. Manipulation only means to skillfully control. That's cool, right? And so you can control the cause of the effect. And so now it's okay, what's causing these thought processes? Well, if you look at a thought, if a thought is consistent, this is a fact. If a thought is consistent, it's because you believe it, all right? You will never, ever think something over and over and over and over again if you do not see any truth in it. You would never sit here and say, I'm a loser. I can't do this. I'm not worthy. Like you've been saying for the last 20 years, if you didn't believe it was true. So if you pay attention to your thoughts, all you see is, oh my God, my thoughts are nothing more but ideas that I think are true. So these ideas that you think are true, whatever these ideas are, now let's get scientific about it. The idea is like a calorie. Okay, so an idea is like an electromagnetic energy. It's a unit of energy. A calorie, it's a unit of energy, right? So if you eat a bunch of calories, or not even a bunch, but any calories, they build your tissue in the same exact way. They build your body in the same exact way. An idea is an electromagnetic unit of energy. And when you focus on an idea that you think is true, and the more you focus on it, the stronger the charge behind the idea becomes. It gets stronger, and then it sends a wave of energy through your body that you feel as an emotion. And then that feeling will drive the action. So your behavior is nothing more than a belief expressing itself. And a belief expressing itself is an idea. And the word idea comes from the word IDN, which means to see. So that means the way that you identify or the way that you see yourself, the ideas that you hold to be true about yourself will absolutely, automatically, inevitably, I guarantee you, will drive everything that you do, because you can never act inconsistent with your self-identity. You can't act inconsistent to the way that you see yourself. You can't get in shape if you see yourself as overweight. You can't be rich if you see yourself as broke. So to answer your question, absolutely. The moment you change a core idea that is held inside of the mind and in the body, because beliefs live in your tissue too. So the moment that you can identify a belief, a core idea, and change the way you see it, give yourself a new idea, a new identity. The moment you do that, it's going to start changing everything after. Now you're feeling different. Now you're acting different. Now you're being different, and you're getting different things. And people think it's because, like, oh, I just changed what I did. I'm like, if anybody changes what they do permanently, not somebody who can just like work out for 7 days, but anybody who does what I did and turned it into a lifestyle, that happened because they changed a belief at the core of that. There's no other reason that would happen. So yeah. So the word persona, remember, I'm talking about the self-identity, because it's the way you see yourself, the way you personally see yourself. The word persona comes from, the word person comes from the word persona. Personality comes from persona. Persona means the false mask. In other words, the ideas you hold of yourself that are not true. And so yeah.
Thank you so much for explaining that. I love how elementary you made it. You took such a complex concept and bringing it into almost an elementary terminologies, and I
It has
really
to
do
be, yeah,
appreciate
yeah,
that.
absolutely. At the end of the day, if you speak at a third grade level, people understand, and it's not that people are not, intelligent. It's that people enjoy to listen to something that is just easier to just understand. And so yeah, and I know my stuff, man.
No, no, absolutely. And that's how you know yourself. You're able to condense it down to a very elementary level. Thank you. So when you have coaching clients and you mentioned someone paid you $5,000, you told them what to do, but they didn't do it. What is something you can use to persuade them or inspire them to change their identity? Because obviously you can't change someone's identity, right?
Exactly. Beautiful question. So, as a hypnotist, it's interesting. People wonder if like I have this magic power of being able to like, just change anything, but like to be able to like control somebody's mind. But the reality is hypnosis is just like sex. It's just like reading a book. It's just like taking a shower. It's just like talking to a doctor, dancing, watching a movie, looking in the eyes of your loved one. Hypnosis is a tool that gets you into a fully absorbed state. So it's very normal. Everybody falls into it. So what I do is I utilize that tool to get somebody into an absorbed state so they can focus on a new idea, as opposed to focusing on I'm not good enough. They can now have a new idea. Now, this is the way that I do it. Like, this is the way that it actually looks. And I can give some very practical advice and tips that people can actually do after this. So for example, let's use somebody struggling to do what they want to do. Okay, so the reason why people paid me $5,000 because my fitness coaching was for 3 months I was always high ticket, right? When I started, I was cheap, like $20 a session. But when I became I started learning online, I was only high ticket sales. And so it was $5,000 for 3 months of coaching. So it was expensive. And today I still charge $5,000 for 3 sessions. So it's still expensive. But so for example, I had a client who let me figure out a good one. Okay, perfect. One of my clients, I'm gonna just give him a character, a name, Jeff. Okay, one of my clients, Jeff, right? He was writing a book and he was struggling with finishing because he just kept procrastinating around the book. All right. He just continuously procrastinated. And he wondered, Adrian, I am this multimillionaire and I'm just, for some reason, I keep procrastinating when it comes to this thing. Like I'm driven. This has never happened. Can you like hypnotize me and figure out what's going on? And so using hypnosis, what I do is I get somebody into a state of delta brainwaves. So right now you're in alpha brainwaves, right? No. Right now you're in beta. I'm tripping. Right now you're in beta. Unless I'm boring you. If I'm boring you, you're in alpha probably. But right now you're in beta. You're engaged. Beta is what you're in when you're waking and you're in your wakeful state. You're engaged. You're doing things. And beta is also where anxiety, stress, anger, all of those emotions live. Now, when you slow down your frequency, the brain waves, the frequency of them, when you slow them down, you enter alpha. Alpha is what you experience when you're taking a warm shower and then that warm water's on top of your head. You're just like, oh, that's alpha. A slight meditation, alpha. Whenever you're just like relaxing, watching mindless television, alpha. You fall into those states. When you're taking a walk, alpha. When you get into a really nice relaxed state walking, you fall into alpha. And then underneath that, you slow it down a little bit. You get down to what you call theta. Now, when you're in theta, this is where earlier I said delta. Oh, yeah, that earlier I said that. What I mean is theta. You get down to theta. Theta is what you experience. Let me ask you this. Have you ever took a nap and while you're you're like, yeah, I've totally taken a nap. I know you have. But have you ever taken a nap, maybe like a 20 or 30-minute nap to the point where you weren't really asleep, but you still felt rested? Like you were laying there and you can still hear things. You knew you were awake a little bit, but you opened your eyes 20, 30 minutes later and you felt rested.
Yeah.
Right? That's theta. Whenever you're meditating and you get deep into your meditation to the point where like 10 minutes feels like 20 minutes, that's theta. I mean, 20 minutes feels like 10 minutes. That's theta. I'm talking too fast right now, but that's theta. You fall into theta in your dream state too. This is important because in your dreams, why do you feel like your dreams are real? Right? You feel like your dreams are extremely real because they release this chemical that it like engages your experience part of your nervous system that feels like it's actually there. This is why dreams feel so real, just like false beliefs can appear so real. And so when someone's in theta, like a dream state, it can give them a new dream. All right. So when you're in theta, what happens is the doorway in between the conscious and unconscious mind doesn't just open. It disappears. There is nothing in between conscious and unconscious. You're in the mind. And at this point, you're consciously aware of unconscious material. It makes it easy. You can ask the brain, you can ask the mind, give me this answer. And in a state of theta, it can be very clear because there's just no anything. So when someone's in theta, what I do is something called neuro remapping. What it's designed to do is get somebody to pinpoint where they picked up a certain feeling, behavior, or belief. And it's always a belief that it's always okay. So for example, this client, on the count of 5 down to 1, this is what I say in the session. I'm like, on the count of 5 down to 1, your brilliant mind is going to take you straight back to the root, the cause, the reason for, I'm so used to snapping, but the root, the cause, the reason for why you are blank, for why you are procrastinating on this book, right? And then all of a sudden it will take you back to a memory where you're just like, watching a movie, a lot of times you're back in the movie. It's like, oh, I'm back at grandma's house. I'm 4 years old. Like you're back into the memory. He went back to a memory at his grandma's house. He was 4 years old. He was standing there and it was just after they went trick-or-treating. Him and 8 of his cousins was standing in grandma's living room. They were sitting in a circle. They were all sharing and trading candies. I remember I used to do this with my cousin. Oh, give me 3 Kit Kats for this, right? So they were trading candies. And all of them were talking. A little 4-year-old had something to say. So he tries to speak up. And as he does, when the oldest cousin says, shut up, Jeff, Nobody wants to hear you. And in that moment, he made a decision to believe something. He said, my voice doesn't matter. And that my voice doesn't matter became an idea that he thought true. So true that at 38 years old, he wasn't putting his book out there because my voice doesn't matter. And so this is important because it demonstrates something extremely significant. That the first thing that this demonstrates is that all of our behaviors, like I've explained already, come down to beliefs. They come down to ideas that you hold to be true about yourself. And that in this case, that client had an idea that he held true about himself. And that idea was, my voice doesn't matter. Does that make sense? Right? So he has that idea of my voice doesn't matter. And then the second thing that this demonstrates is how we pick up beliefs. We pick up beliefs very simply. We pick up beliefs by observing an external event and concluding to ourselves what that event means. We conclude what that event means like a fact. For example, it's like you're walking downtown and somebody walks by you. You smile at them, but they just keep staring and they keep going straight. In your mind, that can mean that you're invisible. Or in your mind, that can mean that they're an asshole. Or in your mind, that can mean, maybe they didn't see me. In your mind, that can mean, hey, they're probably just having a bad day, right? Events happen, and then what we do is we write a story about what that event means. This is why Tony Robbins says the two most important things you can ever focus on in your life is what you're focused on. It's what you're focused on and what you make that event mean. Those are the two important decisions you can ever make, is deciding what to focus on and what to make that mean. And as a young kid, we don't know that. And so what ends up happening is we make these decisions that we think are true based off of our 4-year-old mind, our 3-year-old mind, our 5-year-old mind, thinking that, oh, because mom picked me up 10 minutes late today, that I'm not important anymore. Right? These things happen. For example, another one of my clients, he was having trouble putting himself out there on business. On social media, making posts about his offers, talking about clients, reaching out to leads. He had a lot of fear around doing that. And we did the hypnosis session, did some neuro remapping. He went back to the moment where he was waiting for his mom to pick him up from baseball practice, and he was the last one there. And so because he was the last one there, he tells himself, I'm not important. So what that means as a grown man is my needs aren't important. In other words, being successful is not in me getting results for this is not important. My needs to grow this business aren't important. So screw it. What's the point of reaching out to them? So this fear came up to protect him. And these ideas we create by events that we observe. And so in order to get over a doubt, or in order to start doing something new, first get to the core reason behind why you're not doing something. That's why I don't believe in procrastinators. When people come to me and they're like, I'm a procrastinator, I need help. I'm like, you're not a procrastinator. Chances are you feel like you don't deserve what you want, right? Chances are you feel like you're not good enough to get what you want. Chances are you feel like nobody likes you. Chances are, that's why you're not doing the things to get what you want, because you believe you don't deserve them, because you believe you're not worthy, so it's not about changing what you do. It's about changing who you be by changing what you see about yourself. And that is the core of everything. If you want to get results, what's the core reason behind why you're not getting there, behind why you're getting the results that you're getting right now? Because you can trace the feedback down to what's creating that feedback, then you can change what's creating it and change what you create. And so that's really, to answer that question, the way that I help them, and the way that, the overarching strategy, we can call it, is a really pinpointing exactly what it is that is keeping them from getting what they want. And now this is what I do to change. So I'm about to do some like really cool stuff. Okay. So when somebody's in this memory, I'm gonna walk y'all through the actual process. When somebody's in the memory, what I can do is you can change the path. Now this sounds interesting. I know, but at the reality of reality is that the past is only an idea. The past is not like, dude, if I said, hey man, go run and I want you to find the past for me. When you find the past, come back and let me know. If I told you to go find it. I would never see you again. Let's be real. Never see you again because you spent your whole life looking for the past. The past you cannot see. It does not have a shape. It does not have a location. It does not have a color. So it does not exist. To exist means to stand out. So the past is an idea, which means the past is fluid. The past is plastic. You can change it. And so what I do is during these sessions, I will have them back in the memory. And I'm like, okay, here's what you're going to do. What you're going to do right now is you're going to act like something else happened. You're going to give yourself a new event that you wish happened. What did that 4-year-old need in that moment? Give it to him right now. And what that does in a state of hypnosis, remember, they're in theta, so whatever they think is true to them. It's like a dream. It's real for them. So in that state, I will have the scene play out. For example, let's go back to the memory where the kid got told to shut up, right? For example, we can act like the big cousin instead, or screw the big cousin, get him out of the picture. We can bring the new you, the older you, the 40-year-old you into the picture and say, hey man, what else do you want to say? Like, I want to hear what you have to say. Speak up because what you have to say means something. Speak up because your voice matters. In a state of hypnosis, that would change somebody's life because it takes the neurons that were created by that, the neural pathways that are wired by that, and it will rewire them because it's a new experience. The brain can't see through the skull. I make sure they can feel it in their body. I'm like, okay, now what you're gonna do, now that you replayed this memory into something that's something that serves you. And for example, the other person who got picked up late from baseball practice, we can have the mom still pick them up late, but say, hey son, I wasn't late. I wasn't late because you're not important. I was late because there was a car wreck right down the street and this and this and this happened. But you're so important to me and I love you no matter what. That can change somebody's life. And so because it meets needs that weren't met. When needs go unmet, you act out to meet them. And so after that, I have them, all right, now look at that little kid, look at them in the face and tell them everything they needed to hear growing up. Now you reparent that little kid. And all of a sudden, that little kid's perspective is changing. And then your inner child's perspective changes. And then the adult you, which is really just a big kid, that you is changes. And so it's the inner child that you work with to change the perspective to get what you want, to get the result. So that's that.
That just blows my mind. This entire time, for those of you who are listening to this, not seeing my face, it was
I
just
know,
smiling
dude.
the whole
Yeah.
time. I was just like mind blown with the story, and I think this is the first time I've ever even heard such incredible details to see how it's done. And I think the first question I have is, how do you get into the state of theta? So, or is this something you could do yourself, or do you need someone like you to get results?
Okay, so remember. Well, I'm not remember because I actually didn't mention this, but hypnosis is a self-facilitated process, meaning it is facilitated by you. As a hypnotist, I don't hypnotize people. As a hypnotist, I use my voice to help people hypnotize themselves. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis. I don't change anything. I go in and I'm like, all right, look, here's what you're going to do. You're going to do this, which I'm about to show you. You're going to do this. All right, you're going to follow my voice. Now, and I get them so relaxed to the point where they dip into theta. And then when they're in theta, now I give them new suggestions. And these suggestions, they accept. And then they accept it and it becomes real. But it's their suggestions, not mine. I even say, hey, what do you want? Before a session, I'm like, if I'm a genie and I can wave a magic wand, what would you want me to give you? Okay. And then when they're hypnotized, I will tell them literally what they told me they want and everything they want. And then whenever I'm done telling them, I'm like, do you agree to accept and act out on everything I just said? Yes. It is all done by them. I just know how to facilitate the transformation process, but I'm not the magic behind it. So to answer your question, it is all done by the self. If you want, a lot of help, it's a very worthwhile investment to get somebody who knows how to do it, but you can hypnotize yourself. And the way that you do this is simple. You get into theta, and the way that you get into theta is simple. You just do it like this. So I know, is this a video podcast or just audio?
It'll be video as well.
Okay, so great. And if you're not watching the video, or you're not going to see the video, or you're just an audio person, just imagine what I'm doing. All right, imagine. So what you're going to do, first watch me, and then you can do it after, so I can make sure you're doing it right. And so what you do is you get your eyeballs and you look up to this part of your forehead. This is your pineal gland part of your forehead. You're going to look up to this part of your forehead. and you're going to lock your attention there. And then the key from there is you're going to close your eyelids, but you keep the eyeballs open. So you close, you close the eyelids, but you keep your eyeballs up. Okay. So my eyeballs are up. All right. So my eyeballs are up, and then I'm going to close my eyelids, but my eyeballs are going to stay in the same position. So like this, and then, okay. Do you see that fluttering sensation?
Yeah.
That is rapid eye movement. I'm already feeling deeply relaxed because what this movement does, I'm going to hold it here for a second. What this movement does is it begins to trigger to your nervous system that you are going to sleep. And so your body will start to release, the brain starts to release the chemicals of sleep. And so you start to get into theta. And then you just hold that for about 60 seconds. All right. But don't hold it for 60 seconds, but let me see you at least do the things. I can make sure you're doing it right. Perfect. That's it. All right. Do you feel that flutter?
I do, yeah.
That's it. You keep holding that for another 60, 90 seconds, you're gonna start feeling really good, right? Now, okay, here's what you can do. So here's a process everybody here can do. You're gonna do the eye thing, right? And then you're gonna dip. In fact, I'm gonna give you guys a guided version of what I'm doing, so there could be a guided version for your audience so they can grab it. But by the way, let me also say, a lot of these transformations that I help my clients get, I also do with the help of my business partner, Nikki. She's the NLP whiz behind the scenes, who does a lot of work with our students. So she's a big part. Love her. Just want to make sure I'm giving her credit throughout this thing. Okay, so you're going to do the eye trick, and then you're going to dip your head down and picture 10 steps descending down. So just picture steps going down. So you go like that and picture 10 steps, and then you're going to walk down the steps. And as you're walking down the steps, just do this. I'm taking step 10. I'm going deep. I'm taking step 9. I'm going deeper. I'm taking step 8. I'm going deeper. And while you're doing that, see, feel, and hear the steps. See the steps, feel your feet pressing against them, and hear the sounds that makes. Like, be there with the steps, and, make sure you get your senses involved. But 5 deeper, 4 deeper, 3 deeper, 2 deeper, 1 deeper. You're there. And at that point, trust me, you're there. There's no need to test whether you are 1,000% there. And if you want to test it, you can just say, my eyes are glued shut, sealed shut, locked tight. I can't open them. Watch, you won't be able to open them. When you realize you can't open them, that's how you know you're accepting suggestions very easily. And at that point, you can start saying, I'm worthy, deserving of everything that I want. You can start saying those kinds of things to start putting in those suggestions. But if you want to do something pretty cool, what I recommend is go revisit the house that you grew up in your imagination while you're in this state. And by the way, you could stop fluttering your eyes. You don't need to do that the entire time, just until just do it for 60 seconds. And then put your head down or relax your eyes and go down the stairs. So you don't need to do the eye thing the whole time. So in your imagination, you can go to your childhood house. You can go to your childhood bedroom and talk to them, ask them, hey, what needs went unmet? What do you need that mom and dad aren't giving you right now? They'll tell you, and give it to them. If they say man, I just want to be loved, how would you show them love in that moment, right? Give it to them, and then make up a scene. You can take them, say, hey, let's imagine this happened, right? What would make you feel worthy? Imagine that happening. Instead of creating a scene, you can show that little kid what you're doing now. So if they felt like I feel like nobody likes me, and you have a bunch of friends today, bring them into your world and show them in your imagination. Look at all my friends. They're going to be like, oh my God, people like me. That can change that inner child part of yourself. But that would be a tool right there. Another thing that they can practically do is, instead of creating all of these scenes or saying these suggestions, you can visualize, right? Just like people visualize what they want at the bottom of the staircase when you're in that deep state. That is prime time to visualize, because you're in theta, you're in your subconscious. You are painting the walls of your subconscious different. And so when I visualize every day, I visualize me being on a stage for almost 300 days straight. Not 300 days, almost 3 years straight. And then I ended up landing on a stage, and now I do a bunch of them, right? It didn't just happen because I manipulated my brain to see that shit happen, right? But before bed every night, I do that with my eyes, relax, and I'm all right. I start picturing what I want in my life. I start picturing myself there, and adding as much detail as possible, because the detail to pictures enhance your focus and increase the emotional experience so it's better. But a little tip to make the visualization process more meaningful to the brain and to the mind would be, before you start visualizing, this is after you're at the bottom of the stairs, before you start visualizing, think of a memory that makes you feel confident. Think of a memory that makes you feel good about yourself, makes you feel brave, courageous. Because when you think of that memory and you start feeling that way, now you have the emotional richness that can change your neural pathways, that can start rewiring your neural pathways, because your neural pathways need emotion to rewire, because emotion indicates experience. So this is how you create an experience in your brain. Think of a moment that where you felt really confident. And then when you're feeling that moment, you're like, oh God, oh, I feel like, I feel good. Then that's when you start visualizing on what you want. Now you're mixing this new emotion into that picture and making that picture more and more magnetic. So it ends up happening.
That's absolutely incredible. I mean, so the first thing that comes to my mind with all of this is, remember, you use an example. My eyes are shut and you can't open them anymore. That makes me almost, coming from a place of ignorance, almost a little scary. What are some, I guess, negative side effects or things of caution that you recommend people follow before doing this?
Number one, the biggest thing that I say, and I don't know if this like answers your question directly, but when it comes to hypnosis, the only people that shouldn't be, okay, the reality is everything in the world is hypnosis. If you're listening to this podcast, you are in a trance. You are hypnotized right now. Right? As when you're watching TV, you see a commercial of a McDouble, then you go buy a McDouble, right? Like you're watching whatever, you're scrolling on Facebook, you see an ad, you click it, and you buy whatever. You end up buying some Tupperware you didn't need, right? That was like my mom. But you end up doing all, like, you're always in a trance. You can never not be hypnotized. But when it comes to using self-hypnosis, everything is self-hypnosis too, so I have a hard time communicating this. But when it comes to utilizing these things that I've talked about on this show today, let's do that. The only people I recommend that won't benefit from this stuff is if you have a severe bipolar disorder, schizophrenic, or psychosis. Those conditions, I just don't recommend hypnotherapy, seeing a hypnotist, nothing like that. But everything that I just shared here, there's really no problem with it. It's like it has nothing but benefit. I do understand the feeling of, oh, I can't open my eyes. I do understand that feeling of a panic maybe for a little bit, for a second. But if you feel that, you can easily say, oh, I can't open my eyes. Boom, they'll open, because you're already hypnotized. You can just boom, and you're like, oh, I can open my eyes. Oh, they're open. Oh, let me try it again. Now I can't. Oh my God, I can't. Oh, now I can. Oh, see, and then that takes away the anxiety, because you're like, oh shit, I'm doing this. I'm the one doing this. So that's what you can do. That's what I recommend there if that does come up. But anxiety is also good whenever it comes to hypnosis, because what it can do is it disrupts whatever your focus was before. So if somebody was like, for listening to my voice, and they started kind of thinking about their bills that they had to pay or something, all right, they started going off track a little bit. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, your eyes are glued shut. You can't open them. They can get anxious, and it completely disrupts any before train of thought. And then now I got them where I want them. And now I can, hey, now you're going to listen to me, right? And start giving them what they want, basically. But the negative side effects are everything that you're probably, not everything, I don't want to be like that, but something that you're probably already experiencing. The negative side effects of hypnosis are self-doubt, fear, depression, anxiety. All of those are potential side effects of hypnosis, because again, hypnosis is nothing more but an absorbed state of attention. And so you can be focusing on, why you didn't get a job, why your business is failing. You can be focused on, an event that happened in the past. You can be focused on an idea that you're not worthy. And these things can feel negative. The positive side effects are getting what you want, feeling better, all of those things, because hypnosis is a double-edged sword. Adolf Hitler was a trained hypnotist. He actually got hypnotized by a famous German to believe that he was sent to be the savior of Germany. And this was before everything happened. And so there's a dark side of hypnosis, absolutely. And any hypnotist that says that's not a thing is like, I wouldn't give them a penny. But keep in mind that hypnosis can enhance a belief. That's what it does. It can enhance any belief, whether that be a good or a bad belief. But if you're listening to this podcast, it's because you're into personal development. It's because you're into growing yourself. It's because you're into getting better. So chances are your mindset is in a place where this is only beneficial to, right? Like, people who are not receptive to this are not really receptive to personal growth, because when you explain it in the way I have today, anybody who wants to grow themselves is like, oh, deal with those parts of myself. Like, oh, I'd love to do that. So your audience, you guys are already primed for this kind of work. So I guarantee, I don't say guarantee, but I'm like 9 out of 10% like dead out of dead sure that you'll be 100% fine because of where your headspace is at, just because you're listening to this kind of podcast, you know? So that I'd say there, but that's really it, man. Like, there's no real medical like things you want to be scared about or anything like that can happen, you know, unless you're being hypnotized by a negatively manipulative hypnotist, you know. But the reality is there's a lot of great hypnotists out there, and people. So let me also say this: if you're gonna hire a hypnotist, let me just help you guys out. If you're gonna hire a hypnotist, number one is you must feel safe with that hypnotist. You must feel comfortable with that guy, with that woman, with whatever. You must feel comfortable, and the reason why is because if you don't feel comfortable, your nervous system's gonna be anxious, and it can stop you from being relaxed enough to actually go into a state of hypnosis, because you're the one who gets yourself into that state. If you don't feel comfortable around somebody else, you won't get into that. Number two, make sure they're extremely confident in what they do. When somebody sits in front of me, I'm like, hey, what do you want? They're like, I want to be so confident that I can do anything. I'm like, that's it? That's all you want? They're like, huh? I'm like, are you sure that's what you want? Because when you close your eyes, you're going to get that. Like, you're 10 out of 10 going to get what you want today. I'm hypnotizing them right there. Like, I'm getting them so focused on the fact that it's going to work. And I have zero doubt in my body when I'm doing it. And that level of certainty will transfer over to you. But if you go to a hypnotist who's like, might be able to help you, that doubt will transfer over to you. And then you're like, oh, and now you know you're both doubtful. And then, of course, just make sure that they got a rap, that they're great at what they do. Like, they got the record to show that they're good at what they do. But that's what I know you didn't ask me that directly, but since we're on the subject, I think it's just good to look out for those things. And also, I only do 3 sessions. That's why I charge so much. Let me be clear. I also charge a bunch. I know some people are like, hold on, $5,000 for 3 sessions, which is like 4 hours work for me. The reason why I charge so much is because, number one, I get people what they want, right? It's pretty cool to stop drinking after 20 years of trying on your own, right? In a single session. Yeah, I'd pay a lot of money for that. That's number one. But the thing is I don't have a lot of reoccurring revenue from my hypnotherapy business because I get them what they want, and I'm not going to charge them every single month, you know? And so, and another thing is I don't do any more than 3 sessions. And so I got to charge a lot. And the reason why I don't do anything more than 3 sessions is because I believe that the more times you hire a hypnotist, the worse off you end up being. And the reason why is because every time you think about this, oh man, I'm doubting myself today. Let me call my hypnotist. Like, you stop trusting the power of your own suggestion. And remember, I'm not the powerful one. I'm pretty powerful, right? But so are you. We're all the same level of powerful. We're all freaking amazing. We can do awesome stuff. But the reality is you're the one doing the work. And so I always give my people suggestions. I always give my people my, like, when somebody tells me what kind of suggestions they want me to give them, I'll give them those suggestions, those beliefs, right? But I also throw in my own. And one of those that I always throw in is you're worthy and deserving of everything that you want. Because when you believe that you're worthy and deserving of everything that you want, you go for it, right? And then another thing is you have every resource you need to get what you want. And that belief of having every resource I need shows up whenever you get doubtful. You're like, oh, but I got everything I need. I can do this. I can do this. And so I just don't recommend that you see a hypnotist who says like, yeah, let's do 6 months worth of sessions. Like, dude, what? Like, there's no reason to do that. So just look out for those things.
Thank you so much for all the warnings. I think that is a huge value add, especially for people who are looking to get into this. And so thank you so much.
Yeah, whether it's me or somebody else, I don't care if it's me or not, but definitely look out for those things.
A quick question I had is, when you're doing self-hypnosis, how frequently should you not do it?
I do it every day.
Every day?
Every day.
Okay.
Because remember, it's my suggestion. It's me doing. And the more and more I do it, the more and more I'm feeding and I'm building the belief that I can do anything, right? So I'm doing it. And so if it's me doing it, I'm not sitting here talking to I do have a hypnotherapist, but I don't sit here and call them every day or have them hypnotize me every day. I just do my whole thing. I've done that every single morning and every single night. Every morning and every night, I pass out exactly through that eye trick, stairs, think of a memory that makes me feel good, focus on what I want now. Right. And so all the time, the more the better, honestly, the more the better.
Yeah. And how long do these sessions usually last?
It's about 2 hours long. It's about 40 minutes of like pre-talk. We take a 5-minute break because sometimes people want to use the restroom, drink some water and stuff before. And then the actual session itself is typically 60 to 70, 75 minutes. So they're like actually in a state of hypnosis or theta, whatever you want to call it, for about 60 to 70, 75 minutes.
Got it. And what about for self-hypnosis that you do each day?
Each day, my self-hypnosis is 15 minutes long. So I'm gonna give your audience 2 things. Actually, I'm gonna give them 1 thing, and that 1 thing will get them access to the other thing. But I have a guided visualization process that it's the same one I do. I just put it into a guided version. So if you want to do it every day, I have that. And then the other thing I have guided is doing the inner parent, doing the inner child work. Rebuilding your child, the perspective of your child, changing that inner child, because that inner child is real for everybody. I have that guided version as well. I'll make sure that your audience can get.
That's incredible. Just through this conversation, I already feel calmer and just more at ease. I don't know. Thank you so much, Adrian.
My energy too, man. I'm not anxious right now. So like, you're not feeling that energy, right? It's like,
I love it. I have just a few more questions.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick. That also means, because you're calm around me, that also means I'd hypnotize the crap out of you and you'd be absolute great subject because you're calm around me. That's a big thing. So I just want to like highlight that one more time, because it's extremely important, is you being safe, feeling safe enough to go into that state.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Do you have a book that you recommend for our audience on this topic?
The book that I recommend on this topic is another quick thing, real quick. Whenever you're focused on an idea, you'll see it everywhere. I'm sitting here focused on, man, what's the name of that book? I look to my bookshelf full of books and I see the one thing I'm looking for, right? And so like, if you believe you're not worthy, you're going to see it everywhere, right? I didn't have to look anywhere. The book was right there. But it's called Self-Mastery Through Conscious Auto-Suggestion. Self-Mastery Through Conscious Auto-Suggestion. I got this copy. It's like a black grayish copy. That is probably one of my favorite books on the topic. You'll see, it's so simple. It's like 3rd grade stuff. It's super simple, but it's so simple that I'm afraid a lot of people like, oh, no, stuff doesn't work. But remember, I believe Aristotle says this, or I don't even think that's how you say his name. But anyways, I believe that guy, he said, that guy, but I believe he said, simplicity is the ultimate form of sophistication. So it probably wasn't even him. But whoever said that quote, they were on it, because trust me, simplicity works, simple stuff works. So keep that in mind.
Perfect. And my last question for you is, where can our audience get in touch with you? This has been incredible. I learned a lot. I absolutely love your energy. I feel at peace, calm. So thank you so much, Adrian.
Lovely. Yeah, for sure. So to get more into my world, the main place that I'm going to send you, if you want to get into this like mind stuff and actually start doing the work yourself, go to rewiremythoughts.com/unshakable. That'll take you to the guided video that I was talking about. And in that, and don't unsubscribe from my email. Stick on my email list for like 5 or 7 days, because on one of those days, I give you access to the guided visualization process. So you can have access to both of those. And so that'll be the best place to go there. But if you want to just follow me, I'm growing in a lot. I have another business that's growing a lot. I have a podcast called My First 1000. I interview founders in all kinds of industries to ask them, hey, how did you get your first 1,000 customers without raising capital or investing a lot of capital to do it? So like, you'll be very close with me there, because I'm there all the time. So My First 1000, you should be able to find that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll put all this in the show notes. Adrian, thank you so much for your time. This has been incredible.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for having me, brother.
Hey, it's BJ. If you liked this video, you are going to love this video. Make sure you click it, leave questions in the comments, and I'm here to help however I can. Hope you have a great day.